Welcome to a deeply personal and engaging conversation about leadership, family, and the future. Hosted by Indian entrepreneur Nikhil Kamath, today's discussion features former UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and acclaimed businesswoman Akshata Murty. In this rare joint interview, we will cover everything from fueling consumer entrepreneurship and the superpower of storytelling to adapting education for the AI era, finding validation, and navigating failure through the middle path. Let us dive right in.
On-screen graphical text overlay with the statement, "Deep knowledge with passion and breadth of skills leads to innovation."
The conversation kicks off with high energy as Nikhil introduces a new residential college for entrepreneurship he is running called Foundry. Located just a 30-minute boat ride from Bombay, it operates much like Y Combinator, but is fiercely focused on consumer brands, giving founders a house and $500,000 to build out their ideas. Akshata points out that venture capitalists normally hesitate to rush into consumer goods, but Nikhil pushes back with the data. While India's GDP is growing at 6 to 7%, consumer growth is surging at 12 to 13%. The younger generation in India is simply saving less and spending more. Shifting gears, the trio moves from building brands to building narratives. Nikhil recalls a fascinating encounter with Akshata's mother, Sudha Murty, who captivated him with a 10-minute story about Yama, the god of death. Nikhil marvels at her ability to spin a compelling narrative out of thin air.
On screen, text panel comparing annual MP basic salary between the UK and India. As the screen shows, great storytelling moves people in all walks of life. Rishi agrees entirely, calling her ability to tell a story about anything in any context a literal superpower.
I think she is so passionate about storytelling, and then she deploys that skill whether she is writing for kids or whether she is a member of parliament via the Rajya Sabha. She somehow was able to put things together to have a narrative that appealed to people.
Nikhil remarks that for Rishi to become the Prime Minister of the UK at a relatively young age, he must have had to master that exact same superpower. Rishi clarifies that his initial rise during the pandemic required clear, reassuring facts. However, he admits that in normal politics, a great story breaks through in 5 seconds rather than 5 minutes.
On screen, graphic showing a photo of Rishi Sunak meeting with AI leaders Sam Altman, Dario Amodei, and Demis Hassabis, accompanied by text. Akshata then pivots the spotlight to Rishi's parents, crediting their incredible values for his historic rise, which she researched deeply while a biography about his ascent was being written.
Rishi shares how growing up in Southampton shaped his entire worldview. His father was a family GP and his mother ran a pharmacy. Working in the back of that pharmacy, he witnessed firsthand the profound trust his parents built with their patients. I was struck because the amount of times you would go to the door and hand them a thing and they said, "Oh, are you Dr. Sunak's son?" And then they would proceed to tell me some lovely story about my mum and dad. I came to realize that it was possible for just one person or two people to have this quite strong impact in their community. That community impact became his motivation for entering politics. He explains that UK constituencies are small, requiring a highly local, retail approach to leadership. On screen, graphic showing a group photo including Prime Minister Narendra Modi at the AI Summit 2026. With accompanying text, even after leaving Downing Street, he continues to find deep fulfillment embedded in his beautiful, rural constituency, building on those foundational family values. The discussion naturally turns to education. Both Rishi and Akshata's parents made massive sacrifices for their kids' schooling. But Nikhil questions if the mark-dependent Indian education system breeds conformity in a world that now demands out-of-the-box thinking. Rishi highlights that AI is forcing every country to reimagine education. In an AI-driven future, having deep knowledge alone simply will not cut it. On screen, sovereignty in AI, 3 core strategies. Instead, the ultimate advantage will be horizontal soft skills, human critical thinking, and knowing exactly what questions to ask a highly capable model. This leads back to their time at Stanford. Rishi was drawn to hard finance classes, but Akshata correctly pushed him toward interpersonal dynamics, recognizing that true leadership requires understanding people. That shared foundation is the bedrock of their marriage. Even though they approach situations differently, their core values of integrity, hard work, and curiosity perfectly align. On screen, text panel titled Air-gapped Cloud, with a definition. An air-gapped cloud is a secure cloud system completely isolated from the internet to protect sensitive data. Akshata describes their daily dynamic as a classic yin and yang. She shares a hilarious anecdote about an LA ice cream shop where she took an absurd risk by ordering Sichuan peppercorn flavor, while Rishi safely and predictably stuck to vanilla. Nikhil then asks Akshata the hardest question of the interview. With a titan of industry for a father, and a prime minister for a husband, how does she protect her sense of self? She explains she has always carved her own path. Her secret to navigating life's massive highs and brutal lows is finding the middle path. Heavily inspired by Hermann Hesse's classic novel, she believes balance is key. She points out that true wisdom lies in holding the tension between 2 extremes. Embracing life without letting it consume you. On screen, 2 news clippings appearing as on-screen graphics. One regarding an India-UK trade deal and another on an EU-India free trade agreement. She humorously compares this to the ancient philosophies of the Epicureans, who embraced desire, versus the Stoics, who shunned it, noting that the happiest place is always right in the middle. Nikhil jumps in with a unique theory. Because South India historically saw less conflict, its people learned to live more fully in the moment. A mindset Akshata tries to incorporate into her pursuit of balance. But what happens when things go wrong? Rishi opens up about the massive 50-50 decisions that constantly land on a leader's desk, and the inevitable sting of failure. On screen, an informational text panel titled Tariff on Chinese EVs, describing the EU imposing tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles in 2024. He emphasizes a psychological concept called metacognition, which literally means thinking about your own thinking, to objectively evaluate why a failure happened. He insists that a true leader must have the emotional discipline to not get overly inflated by a win, nor entirely crushed by a loss. The story you tell yourself about it cannot be one which is victim-centered. You have to be able to more objectively look at it and just self-reflect and say, what did I not quite get right? On screen, a news clipping graphic titled, Trump Who? At $1.2 trillion. China's trade surplus hits new high in 2025 despite US tariffs. Akshata chimes in to add that surviving those failures requires immense self-compassion. As the interview winds down, she poses a fascinating final question to the table. Poets or politicians? Prior to Rishi doing his job in number 10, I would have probably said poets. I think there are people like you, Rish, who can do it with a great deal of integrity and who can bring about that impact at scale. Sharing craft coffee and chocolate. The trio wraps up with a beautifully self-aware thought from Rishi. As a lifelong reader of non-fiction, he realizes that reading fiction might actually be the ultimate cheat code for understanding human empathy, emotion, and the profound why behind the people he serves.